So right now I want to talk to you about measures of variation, and I'm going to talk about three of them. So the measures of variation, what they do is they tell us how spread out is the data. Right, so we have our measures of central tendency, mean, median, mode, and that is, right, you have to pick one number to describe the entire set. So this, the measure of variation, this is how you can say, hey, is your data all clumped around one value or is it all spread out? So the ones that we'll talk about are range, variance, and standard deviation. Range, absolutely the easiest. It's just your highest value, so your highest data value, minus your lowest. What kind of spread are you looking at? Okay. Variance and standard deviation are related. So variance is equal to the standard deviation squared, or going the other way, the standard deviation is the square root of the variance. So usually you have one, and if you want the other, you have to go right in whichever order. So variance, now there's a formula that I'm not going to have you do because we're going to do it in our calculators or on the computer. But variance is, I'm going to have to write it down so I remember. So we sum your data values from the mean squared and then divide by how many data values. So it's like we're averaging the square of the differences. Each of our individual data values is from the mean. So we write each individual data value minus the mean, get that number, square it, add all of those up, and then divide by how many data values. Now, there's a catch. This is the formula if we're finding the variance for a population. Here's that symbol. So it's a lowercase sigma squared. So this is for a population, a parameter. If we are looking for the variance of a sample, so sample, right, we use the Latin alphabet, so that will be an S squared. It's going to look pretty much the same. We're going to add up the difference, our data values from the mean, I'll use an X bar because we're sample, squared. Now here's where it's different, n minus 1. So we divide by this smaller denominator to make this value here bigger so that it more aptly models the population value. So this is for a sample. And in standard deviation, again, it's just whatever your variance is, square root. Now, something to keep in mind, once we take the square root, so look at your variance formula, it's a data value minus the mean is like a data value, we square it, we add them all up. So what we get out of the variance, it tells us about our data set, but the value is not of the data set. Once we take the square root, right, so we've squared, square root, we get back. This standard deviation is related exactly to your data points. Okay, so if you have a standard deviation of 1.3, right, then that 1.3 is very much related to your individual data points. Okay, so I told you we were going to do it on our calculators. But just to show your intuition, right, just to use that a little bit, if we have set A, 67575, and set B, 246711, which one of those do you think is going to have a bigger standard deviation? Which one is more spread out, right? Obviously, right, set B. Because, right, they're more spread out. These guys here are all clumped together. So now we're going to find the range, variance, and standard deviation for each of the lists above. So I'm going to try to go fast so you don't have to watch for long. So here are the steps on your calculator. So I'll put my calculator up, turn it on. So first, right, we have to input the data. So we'll do set A first. So stat, and then edit, so hit enter. Go over, we'll go ahead and put them in L1. So remember how we clear it out? So up to the top, clear, enter. And then we're just going to input, so we're going to do set A. So 6, 7, 5, 7, 5. Once you have them all entered, it's stat, calc, one variable statistics, tell it where you have your stuff. So mine's in L1, so I need to change that. So remember your L1 is down here on the 1 button. So second and then the 1. Now I don't have a frequency list, so I need to clear that out. I'm not doing that. That was if I had a grouped frequency distribution. I don't have that right now. I just have this one list of numbers. So I just hit clear, right? The clear button's right here. And now I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to do one variable stats for me. So now for set A, this is all I know. I know that the average X bar is 6. They've added them all up. I'd never use those next two lines. And now comes two that I have to choose from. I have S, and then they subscript it with X, okay, is 1, and sigma X is 0.89, yada, yada. Tells me N, how many values I had. Tells me the smallest value I have. And then it gives me some quartiles. It gives me a median, and it gives me the max. Cool. Now, let's get back to here. My calculator told me the standard deviation for a sample and for a population. It didn't know which one I gave it. So it divided it by n, and it divided it by n minus 1, said, hey, take what you need. So whichever one you have, right, pick that one. Did I say which one I was? Let's say sample. So for sample, this would be the standard deviation. And it would also be the variance, because 1 squared is also 1. And then to get the range, that would be largest, which is 7, which is also on your calculators, right? That's that max. You can go down to the bottom. Max is 7, min is 5, in case you didn't, if you have a bigger list and you're just like, I can't remember, calculator's going to tell you. So our range is 2. Variance is 1, standard deviation also 1. So now we're going to run through the same thing with set B. If you'd like to pause and try it on your own, I recommend that. So stat, calc, join back with me. Oh, sorry, stat, edit. I have to input them, don't I? So I'll put those in L2. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 11. Stat, calc, one variable, tell it L2. And again, same average, wasn't asked for, but it's there, so I'll go ahead and put it down. And then I have my 2 standard deviations. So I'll go ahead and just take the sample version, right? And we said it would be bigger, and it is bigger. So my standard deviation is 3.39 for set B. I'm going to have to go in a second and get the variance, because I have to get back to my home screen. Let's see, min is 2, so I'll go ahead and use that to get my range. Is 11 minus 2, so the range is 9, right? That's also bigger. So now I have the standard deviation. I have my range. So for the variance, let's see, I'll quit, and then I'm just going to do 3.39 squared. You can either do times itself or the squared buttons over here, kind of kitty corner from the 7. So 11.49 is my variance.